franktalks.com.
This program does not represent the views of this station and may be considered offensive to some listeners. This program may contain mature subject matter, including frank discussions of controversial topics. It is intended for mature, open-minded audiences. Discretion is highly advised. This program is entirely independently produced by and is copyrighted by Frank. It is broadcast here under license.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank, because I have to be. We have a very interesting show for you today. In studio, we have a music and sound artist, Mr. Lukas Gardiner, who's going to be joining us and telling us a little bit about the pleasures and lifestyles of being a music and sound artist. Let us go to our current guest, Mr. Lukas Gardiner, a sound and music artist. Mr. Gardiner, welcome to the station. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Excellent. Why don't we start the interview off with your past history? I want to give the listeners an opportunity to find out where you're from, how you grew up, and how it relates to your music and art.
Okay, well, I'll start with the beginning. I was born in Montreal about 33 years ago. Spent the first, I'd say, 10 years of my life around here. And when I was 9 years old, my parents decided to take the family to the Canadian North, which we'll probably go into a little bit later, really shaped who I am and how I do what I do in terms of my music. So I spent, I would say, 6 years there. So from 9 to 15 are the formative years, and then came back to Montreal, and finished high school, did my CEGEP, came to Concordia, and started working. And throughout those many years, probably starting at the age of about 13, that's when I started to write music, create in different ways. Done a bit of painting, bit of writing, but the thing that satisfies me most is writing, creating music and soundscapes, or whatever you want to call them.
Now, if I understand this correctly, you started creating music and sound art when you were living outside of Montreal.
I think that's when I started thinking about it. Excuse me. I started listening to a lot of music when I was in the North. It was a very small town, like they all are. 2,000 people, hostile environment, long, dreary winters. Kind of shapes you. You become, you really look for things to fill the void. There's school, and then, you have to, you've got your friends, but, the kind of person I am, I just latched on to listening to tons of different types of music, reading quite a lot, which really, really inspired me to create stuff of my own. But it's when I came back from the North and I met a number of different people, primarily in high school and through other activities, that had the same desire to create. And of course, at that age, we all had our little, I'm going to be a pop star thing happening. So I was in a number of different little bands, and it just, started there, created with different people, and then went on to do my own stuff.
How do you think things would have been different for you if you had grown up in Montreal as opposed to that little isolated town?
That's a really good question, and I don't know. I'm a very introverted person. I have a very rich inner life. I don't know if I'd be like that if I had lived here. I look at the people that I had left behind and came back to, many years later, and I saw how they had evolved, and they had all, because I say Montreal, but it's really Valleyfield. It's right outside Montreal. Again, a smallish town, and everyone had evolved in the same way. Everyone had sort of been exposed to the same things, and obviously I wasn't the only one. There were other people who had been outside elsewhere and come back, or were new to the town. I don't think I would be as creative, really. I don't think I would have this desire to create, or it would be different. I don't know. That's a really good one. You know.
How do you define yourself as a music and sound artist? I mean, is that even the proper terminology?
Yeah, I mean, I would never... People say musician, and I hate that because it makes me feel like it's my job, and it really isn't. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's almost a hobby, but not quite, because I really don't like that term either. I don't like the term hobby because it's much more than that. It really... some of the stuff I do, I mean, comes from really deep within, and that's not a hobby. You know, I'm not making a bridge out of popsicle sticks here. I'm doing something that stirs up emotion, and hopefully in other people, maybe not, but in myself, and that's the primary reason why I do it, and it helps me deal with certain things. But I like your definition, which was sound and music artist. I like that.
Let's talk about the connection that you seem to have with your creations. You mentioned that it comes from deep within you. It's something that, you know, it sounds almost like it's a part of you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, my music is something that I do because I feel like doing it. I've never felt like that I've had to. You know, although I have, you know, when I was in university, I did write a few things for film. But it's just, I mean, of course it's a deep connection. It's who I am, you know, this desire to create and to try to I mean, you know, it's I don't know. It's a good question.
Something else that you had mentioned prior to us going on air was the differences between creating music for someone else, such as having created music for those films, and creating music for yourself. And I'd like you to expand a little bit on the dynamics so that somebody who may be listening in, who maybe does music for themselves as an art form of expression, and maybe is considering getting into a position where they would be creating that art form of expression for someone else, what can they expect, or what are some of the issues that they should be aware of?
Well, obviously it depends on the person you're dealing with. My experiences have been limited. I haven't done it a lot. I would say 2 different films, which I wrote, you know, a few pieces each for, you know, 5 for one and 4 for the other, if I remember correctly. And once worked on a friend's demo who wanted to sort of start singing and asked me, he couldn't write much and asked me to write. I mean, obviously there are, when you do stuff for yourself, it's just, you don't care about, I mean, obviously you don't care what other people think. You like doing it. It does something for you, and you don't care if it does something for other people. When you're writing for other people, it's different. You have to sort of find that balance of what do I like versus what are they going to like. Take into consideration their own creative decisions. You know, they'll have direction for you. It's a struggle, but it's totally worth it. It's a great. I mean, anyone who does create anything knows that creating for oneself versus creating in a collaborative environment is just as rewarding. It's a different type of you know, feeling, but it's just as good.
I have just an off the top of your head type of question. Is there any particular piece of music that you've created that stands out in your mind?
Not really. I mean, I would say stuff that's really, really recent. One of the things that's very recent that I've done is something called mourning. It's mourning as in time of day, not mourning a loved one. which is very, very long. It's very moody, atmospheric, and it's just one of those kinds of things that I'd been trying to do for a long time, and I'd never felt like I had succeeded. And I think with this piece, I've succeeded. What I set out to do is to, and it came out great. I like it.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. Our guest today is Mr. Lukas Gardiner here on Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. What is inner game? There's a lot of contradictory information out there, and one size does not fit all. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. This is a workbook, which means we will work together, and by the end, you will have developed your own personal inner game. By this, learn what it means to be a man and what the role of the modern man in today's society is that will attract him to the woman he wants. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Guys, if the only breast you ever touched was in a bucket of chicken, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only thing you've licked recently has been your fingers to turn the pages of a book, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only female body part you are familiar with wears a cape, can fly, or has superpowers, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If you think the G-Spot is the name of a new club, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the words missionary conjures up images of guys in long robes, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only sensation your fingers have had are pressing the buttons on your remote control, then you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Do you know what it means when a woman asks you up to her place for coffee? If you think that she is thirsty for caffeine, then you definitely need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank, because I have to be. We're in studio again with Mr. Lukas Gardiner, who is a music and sound artist. Mr. Gardiner, we're back.
Hello.
All right. I'd like to change the direction a little bit of this interview and look at some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome in order to create your artwork.
In my case, I would say the obstacles have really come from within. Just because of the way I am, the kind of person I am. I've had a really hard time sort of accepting the fact that I'm a creative person and embracing that because, different things, family pressures, you got to be this, you got to be that. Your friends around you are all becoming doctors and they're all becoming whatever. And, deep down you want to be something else. I've always wanted to be a creative person, and that was obstacle number one. And a number of different things have sort of been obstacles. But again, I see obstacles more, not things that can stop me, but rather things to deal with. And how do you deal with them, and what do you get from dealing with these things? And God, I have to be really honest. Some of the obstacles that I've had to overcome have been sources of inspiration. How did I get through this, or how did I overcome whatever? I'm not being very specific, but that's pretty much all I'm going to say about obstacles.
When you talk about obstacles within, are you talking about insecurities? Are you talking about fear?
Fear of what are people going to think? Are they going to think that I'm trying to be someone else? Are they going to think this is not really him? He's putting on airs or whatever. I mean, there are so many different ways of saying what I'm saying right now. And insecurities, obviously, you always wonder, what are other people, how are they going to feel about what I've created? How are they going to respond to it? And of course, it's not a great feeling when they don't respond to it positively. But I'm happy to say that being in my early 30s, I've grown up. I've become I'm older, and now I don't care as much as I used to. When you're 15, it's the hugest deal if somebody hates what you've done. You feel like your whole world is crumbling, but you get to a point in your life where you realize that the important person, the most important person is yourself. I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm just talking about keeping that priority in mind, that the one person to look out for, the one person that the only person that should be your judge is yourself, because that's the only way you get better at what you do, or
For the benefit of people who might be listening, who might be sound artists themselves or looking to become a music and sound artist, can you give us an idea as to how you dealt with those obstacles? How did you deal with your insecurities? What did you do about your fears of what other people thought?
I've never tried to deal with these things in a direct, active way. It's sort of, I don't know. Life just makes you different, and you grow up and you experience different things. You meet different people, and at one time or another, certain things become less important. But I've I don't think I've ever set out to extinguish like a certain fire within myself. Okay, this is one thing I have to fix. I just sort of let things fall into place, I think.
Let's look at the other side of obstacles and talk about some of the sacrifices you have to make being a music and sound artist. What sacrifices can you let people know that are out there that if they decide to follow the same path you're on, they should at least be aware of it?
Well, obviously you have to spend a lot of time doing what you do. I can't say that I've made that many sacrifices, because I don't do this for a living. But those times when I've sort of been closer to that side of it, when I was writing for different people or for film or whatever, then time, you have to wrap your head around what you're doing. You have to practice and do your thing, in a better way. So time is a big sacrifice, and obviously, sometimes you have to spend money, the stuff that I do, before I had a computer, I was like, had this tape machine, it was all broken, and I had to, whatever, it was different. So sometimes when you want to go beyond what you've got to, it sounds a little bit, clinical, but you have to spend money, and,
Were you still able to create even when you didn't have the money?
Yeah, obviously I don't own everything I want to own. If I could buy a Steinway, I would. I can't. But it's interesting that you bring that up, because looking back, and I look at some of the stuff that I have created when I had nothing. I had bits of this and bits of that, and yet you still came up with something that I'm very happy with. It's a really good feeling to know that you've still got that. Whatever environment you create for yourself to work in, it really comes from within. So whatever you've got is secondary to what comes from inside of you. But
has there ever been a time where you created something and it took a lot out of you?
A lot out of me.
Just to give you an idea of where I'm going with this, it's when people go through a creative process, they put so much of who they are into their art form, into that expression, that sometimes the creative process takes a toll on them. And when you are creating and you're just putting so much of yourself into that expression, what are some of the, like, is there ever a time when you finished a piece of artwork and you just like needed to take a nap, or you just needed to unwind from it?
Yeah, I mean, there have been times when, you know, the whole experience of creating something, like you said, you know, took over. And, you know, it happens. You sort of get into this mood, and you sometimes can't control this urge to finish what you've started, really, basically. You know, I mean, you know, I think in my experience, I mean, it's been the most taxing situations have been when I've written for other people, you know, because you've got their demands, you've got their creative input to that. I find really, really tough, because you're putting yourself into this other person's. It's really weird to describe. It's just I find that really, really tiring.
Well, you're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. We have Mr. Lukas Gardiner in the studio. He is a music and sound artist.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Guys, does your bachelor pad look as frightening as an Elvis convention? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do you own a twin bed and still love your Star Wars sheets? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Is the only source of artificial light in your bachelor pad the bare, dusty bulb hanging from the ceiling? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do your friends walk into your apartment and think you have been robbed? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do you think that minimalist means barren as the Gobi Desert? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. If your bathroom is home to a colony of anything, then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. The Pimping Your Pad seminar and telephone consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Calibrated Storytelling Seminar. Have you ever felt tongue-tied when talking to a woman and did not know what to say next? This seminar provides the structure to create personalized stories that connect to a woman's emotional needs. Calibration is about putting people into the categories and then modifying your behavior. Do you want to learn how to be truthful about who you are, but in an interesting and seductive way? If you want women to like you for the real you, then this seminar is for you. The Calibrated Storytelling Seminars and telephone consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank, because I have to be. We're in studio today with Mr. Lukas Gardiner, who is a sound and music artist. Mr. Gardiner,
Yep.
Let's take the interview into another direction.
Okay.
At this point, I'd like to give you the opportunity to share with us, what is your lifestyle day to day? When do you find time to do your art?
At the risk of sounding, I work in an office, 9 to 5. When I'm there, I'm into what I do. I'm not saying I like it, but I have to be on the ball. It's a typical office job, and my music, I think, is an escape from that. So obviously, as soon as I get home, I'll, depending on how I'm feeling, will write different things, and weekends are important. I don't have a huge circle of friends. I'm not seeing anyone, so there's a lot of time that I can spend with myself, with my computer, with my art, with what I like to do.
Do you ever get lonely?
Yeah, I do get lonely at times, in different ways. I don't know what I can say about that, really.
Well, when you're working on your art, it takes up so much of your time that it probably has hindered your opportunities to be with other people, both socially and maybe romantically. And is there ever a time when, even though you enjoy what you're doing with your art, that maybe you would rather be doing something else?
Not that often, I have to say, because I like it so much. It really... It satisfies me, obviously there are other things that I could be doing, and but creating is just something that's so beyond being with people. There's not a lot of effort when you're on your own. You don't have to please anyone but yourself. So, it's so easy to make it work.
And it sounds like you derive a lot of pleasure and good feelings from that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It really makes me, it makes me feel alive, whereas when you're in an office from 9 to 5, you don't always feel alive. You feel like you're a product of something and that you're there to crank stuff out, and, you just feel like you're there until they build that perfect computer with which they can replace you. There's not a lot of room for personal growth in the business world. Whereas when, you're doing something creatively, you're constantly learning something about yourself, because you start somewhere with a piece, and where you want to take it. You don't always know how you're going to get there. And that journey is so rewarding because, while you're there, while you're taking that journey, and when you've completed the journey, you look back and you say, wow, this is what I've done. And it's an incredible feeling. Mind you, it's, to go back to the whole being lonely thing. Yeah. There are times when it's Saturday night and I'm
doing a radio show here on internet radio.
It's Saturday. Oh, yeah. God. Yeah, whatever. It's my life, and that's what I like to do. So even though I do feel lonely, it's not enough for me to say, enough of this, and I'm going to go try and make friends or whatever. I do have friends, but I'm just saying that I'm not a very social person, and I'm fine with that. I like myself that way.
What are some of your future aspirations?
Can I drop names?
Absolutely.
Because I would really, if there's one person I really admire in the world of music, someone by the name of Ryuichi Sakamoto, who has done a lot of different things. He's just been all over the map. He's worked with so many different people, and that's one of the things I'd like to do, to be not just to work with these different people, but to do it well, to work with a reggae artist and to contribute something to what they do, to work with a classical artist and contribute something to what they do, and have that rapport. And he's done stuff for film. He's done his own poppy sounding albums. He's done so many different things, and you get the feeling that he loves what he does and he makes a living from it. I'm not saying that I'm not striving for that, but if I were there, I'd be happier.
One last question.
Yeah.
What inspires you to create?
A whole number of different things. It can be, the birth of a child in my family, flowers that my mother's growing, I don't want to sound tacky or, soapy, but hey, life, really. People that I see on the street, different situations that I'm in, it's all over there. It's all over.
Well, Mr. Gardiner, if I ever get a call from you that says you created some music and sound art based on your experiences of being interviewed here on Frank Talks, I definitely invite you to send us a copy of that artwork, and we'll put it up on our website.
Sure, I may do that.
Excellent. You've been listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank. It's about that time we're going to be saying goodbye. Mr. Gardiner, thank you so much for coming into studio and sharing a little bit of yourself with us.
Thank you for having me, Frank.
Do you have any way for people to get in contact with you if they want to hear more selections of your art?
The best way is to go to your website, because you were kind enough to provide a link to my own website. The address is too long. I can't blurt it out. It's too long, but it's you can go to your from my website. You can write me an email. You can write me an email and say I hate your stuff. I will welcome that comment. Whatever you want to say. That's the best way.
And when you do visit our website, you can go into the list of previously done shows and upcoming programs. And there's going to be a link there to Mr. Gardiner's website.
Thank you very much.
Very interesting music and sound art, and that you simply continue along in your career path.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you to our guest, Mr. Lukas Gardiner, who was good enough to come by in studio to talk about the pleasures and lifestyles of being a music and sound artist here on Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? This book is for the guy that simply wants to learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one she was destined to be with. This book will teach you how to get the woman you want and how to keep her. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test is the Rosetta Stone for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks and how to respond. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get rate going around. Oh, it's worth every cent that you will put down. Yeah. Frank Talks.com. Oh, you got to go to. Get your help from Frank Talks.com. Yeah, yeah. Would you believe that Frank gets results? Yes, we're certain. Just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's never goods. Good love can soon come to you.